Alright, let me get my glasses first. There, here they are. Alright, hello everyone, this is Lauren in the future, and welcome to Dark Souls 3. Tips and tricks for noobs. And for dumbasses who don't know how to fucking play, but play anyways. First off, we're gonna start off with the tutorial, or what is a somewhat tutorial. As you all know, you start in Cemetery Bash. If you guys are beginners, you probably don't know what the Cemetery Bash is. Or if you guys are just watching this to know what to do when you start playing the game. I know I'm a little late to the game, introductions and how to actually play, but I'm actually what I consider to be a super pro nowadays, especially in Dark Souls. I know I run with an over-leveled build, but I mean, I'm a little cop. You gotta forgive me for that. And usually I run with my, what's it called? For PvP, I'll sometimes run with my lighter builds, which are my 160, 150 characters. But when I'm actually in the mood to get some salt, I'll play with my, you guys already know, overload build. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's get situated. First off, don't roll back. Always roll forward. Why? It uses the AI, and we can get back to that, if you're good like me. And don't heal for every little, sliver of health you're missing. A noob would heal right now because they think that it would help them. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You don't need this extra little chunk of fucking health. You don't. Don't spam your heals either. That's a terrible idea unless you're in PvP. And don't be afraid to mix it up a bit, but keep in mind, you're a sorcerer, or if you're a light build, which I should say, sorcerers are technically light builds. That looks like Oscar. Might be Oscar. Yes, sorcerers are light builds. They're meant to be very light on their feet, use light weapons, weapons that have, a high dexterity demand. Use spells and shit like that. First off, and foremost, which is the most important thing that every player in all of Dark Souls should know when starting off any type of magic build. Never use a lesser ability if you have 2 spells. Or if you're a sorcerer, because it's primarily directed towards sorcerers. Don't use Soul Arrow. Unless you want to be conservative in magic and you're fighting little punks like these. Which in this case, do not even use magic at all. Just go melee. It's not worth it. It really isn't. Just to guzzle a little Soul Arrow, that's going to take a little bit of my magic. Some of my mana pool that I could use for the boss. It's not worth it. Even if there is a bonfire near you. Don't ever do that. Just don't. And one other thing you should all know, if you have played Dark Souls in the past, especially 3, or if you need help and you get through this area, and you see that here right there, I was kind of careless. This is a type of thing that you need to heal for. A small amount of health is, it's not a demand for usage of Estus. Oh. Oh, that was a brain fart. Keep in mind you can also run in water. But seriously, when you read this message, it actually means turn the fuck back. But since I'm a pro, I don't need to. And I'm not going to be an idiot and actually try to fight it. Keep in mind, this enemy right here, do not fight it if you're a sorcerer. Do not. Repeat, do not fight this thing. It has a really high resistance to magic. Fight it when you get better, or when you're at least a higher level. At least then you have a chance of actually damaging it instead of just shooting spells and wasting magic. Which by then you'll be out of magic before you can even kill it with your spells, because it's just so resistant to magic. If you know the lore to Dark Souls, it's pretty obvious. Magic comes from crystals, or crystals and magic are so close in relation. I think crystals come from magic, or magic. Oh, it doesn't. Magic comes from souls, and it's made from human souls. Alright. Also keep in mind that there are special abilities, and they will use magic, as you have seen in the top left. special abilities from shields and whatnot do not decrease magic unless it's from great shields. Do not chance a parry unless you are for sure. And keep in mind that spells, you're not going to want to use any spells unless it's a boss or an invader. Those are the only two things you should use your spells for, unless it's, or if it's a tough enemy. Yeah, tough enemy is totally agreeable. Like, if you have a lot of invasions coming in and out of your world, then you can use spells. But none should be used on the lesser mobs like these. I mean, it should always be in this order. First is the grunts, little dudes like this. Then there's the, actually what's lower than the grunts are one-shots. Always use a melee for one-shots. Second is grunts. Third are sort of those medium enemies who are kind of a bit tougher. They have like more armor and such. And above that is 4, who are like the knights. They're tough enemies. There's more than that. There are, but those are in later areas of Dark Souls, and you don't need to worry about them. You're a beginner. But what you should know right now is, if you're going light or a caster build, don't waste magic on lesser enemies. And those are not official categories, those are categories I made to help my students in Dark Souls. If you're in a bind like this, I'd say it'd be about alright to use some magic. I still wouldn't suggest using magic. Oh shit. Days when you play Sekiro, you kind of get used to just holding square to pick up items that aren't even on corpses. Alright. Now that we got that out of the way, the grunts are dead, and now if you guys are noobs, you are most likely gonna notice that you have souls at the bottom right. Alright, now keep in mind, if you're just starting the games, for one, be careful on how you allocate your points. A sorcerer's primary objective is not for damage at this point. Listen to me closely and carefully. Fuck damage at the beginning of the game. It's not important. It really isn't unless you're into PvP. Right now, you're gonna focus on building your character, which is the primary attributes you need. What the hell am I saying? So yeah, primary attributes: vigor, and vitality, strength, and dexterity. These two are worthless. You don't need them unless you're a bleed build. Well, faith, maybe if you're a bleed build, like a bleed faith, but still you don't want it. If you're going to be a bleed build, full-on bleed build. And before I get off topic, I'm going to resume with what I'm going with, because I don't want to go off topic and start talking about other builds, because I can go on all day, literally all day. Alright, so yes, before I forget, again, you're going to want to work on your base stats. Your vigor, vitality, strength, and dexterity. And I was forgetting endurance before. Remember to up your endurance. That's very important. But endurance isn't going to be needed if you're a sorcerer. I mean, you're a light build. You're not going to be swinging around big-ass weapons. So you don't need a lot of endurance or a lot of stamina. In that case, you're just going to be needing straight swords. Or even a mail breaker. I mean, the mail breaker is a really good weapon, don't get me wrong. You can go to the end of the game with this thing, and it deals a ton of damage. Especially if you buff it and you can get crits with it. It's alright for crits, but I'd suggest a dagger if you want real crits and real damage with the crits. Other than that, don't. I mean, best weapon for critical is the dagger after all. Or you could be one of those pieces of shit that uses a rapier. But we don't talk about those guys. Ah, I missed that. Whatever, doesn't matter. It's not like I'm going to be using this character. Now, this isn't like Dark Souls 1, so if you guys are from Dark Souls 1 and you're trying out Dark Souls 3 and you're kind of late to the program, don't worry, there are no mobs that will damage you if you drop into them. Like those weird looking tentacle freaks from Lost Isolate. Fucking backstab. And before you enter the boss, you should take some time to explore. Did his cape just sway with my camera? Well, it did at first. Yeah, I was looking at Gundyr because his cape starts swaying if you didn't notice. And here's another thing. In Dark Souls, you're going to want to be more bold than usual. Especially in Dark Souls 3. I mean, chances are you're going to get that lucky shot. Chances are you're not going to get that lucky shot. I mean, I've done it several times, especially when I first played Dark Souls 3. I was kind of lucky and spammed the shit out of heavy soul arrow at Ludwig's Gundyr and killed him. For areas like this, magic is alright. I mean, you don't want to go over there and just break the shield. I mean, this guy doesn't have any actual weapons other than that fucking crossbow. So, yeah. Just run over there and stab him with your Mailbreaker. Shouldn't really take damage unless you're an idiot and you let him shoot you with it. Alright. Now, usually I just run into the boss with this much magic missing, but I'm not an idiot, and it's always better to be safe than sorry. I mean, you can't stay out longer than this if you have that much magic as a sorcerer. When you're fighting bosses, remember to use your spells. Don't try to get a parry unless you are for sure you can make that parry. Like me. I'm honestly just trying not to look stupid when I'm doing my video. Alright. Go. Now, in those special cases for those special idiots who still need some explaining. Number one. Explore the goddamn area before you enter the boss room of any place in Dark Souls. Don't fucking speedrun the game. There's no bonuses to that. You really aren't. And matter of fact, you're missing more that way if you speedrun Dark Souls. You really are. 2, this is practically a recap. Remember, spells to a sorcerer is literally like your life force. It's second most important thing for this build. Close to your health. Your spells and your health are very important. You remember that. Alright. Lastly but not least, remember there's specials. L2. In order to use those specials with your right hand weapon, press L2. Or no, press triangle, then L2, yes. To use your left hand instead of your right hand weapon, to two-hand that, you have to hold triangle. So remember that. Then L2 to use that special weapon. I mean, some pros like to have a weapon in their left hand slot so they can two-hand it in the middle of a PvP battle, but that doesn't earn you any bonuses unless you're efficient with that weapon, because you wouldn't be using it otherwise. Or you'd be using it to scare, but you don't want to use it for that purpose. And it's kind of obvious for why you don't want to use it for that purpose. And to anyone who's curious if you can run past this boss and just open the doors. First, let's look at Gundyr. It looks kind of strange, especially with those black tentacles. Alright. If you're curious, no, the door can't be opened. Alright, now without further ado, let's get this clusterfuck on the road. Alright, first of all, I'm just shoving off. Now, on most occasions, this is a scary puppy. And there we go. I was kind of freaked out. I'm very rusty. I've been playing a lot of Sekiro and Destiny lately. Alright. So there you have it. I mean, sorry for showing off back there, but I just had to get a parry. It just feels so good when you do. I've done it so many times in share plays and never in my own actual videos. Alright. So, parrying is not easy, and do not parry this boss. If you're a beginner, do not do it. I was just doing that to show off. But realistically, if you're a beginner, you're most likely just going to be trying your best to roll around him. And in the middle of the fight, in the heat of the moment, you might not be able to apply these, but try your best to remember. You're always going to want to roll towards him and get behind him. And then run. I mean, you might have the instinct to roll, but no. Running uses less stamina and gets you away much faster. While rolling, it's a safer option. I'd say roll like I was doing back there until you're a good distance to start running. And then start freaking out and roll as fast as you can when you get him into second phase. And then shoot him. That boss was actually pretty easy. It's a very easy boss for beginners. And really, it's kind of sad that most people don't really pick up Dark Souls, because this is where they stop. This is where they stop. I mean, unless you have a pro who's able to help you out with this game, you don't pick up Dark Souls, because that boss is pretty difficult. And I'm sorry to those of you who I can't help, and those of you in Dark Souls 3 who need help. Remember, this is PlayStation 4. And if you're on PlayStation 4, PS4, shorter version, I got your back. Just know that. I'm here for you guys, if you guys need me. You guys know my username. It's ArtemisFoul14. Artemis_Foul14, all caps. And if you need my help, send me a message. I'll help you out. So, that's in the video. And peace now.